So over the weekend, I got to see the new Yorgos Lanthimos movie, Poor Things, and I went into this one with pretty high expectations, considering that I've liked the other films from Yorgos I've seen so far a lot, and also considering like everybody under the sun has been glazing this movie left and right. Now this is another example why I think you should always watch movies a second time, because maybe I wasn't in the right headspace for it when I saw it this past weekend, but I found it to be kind of disappointing. Now I'm gonna have to spoil this movie to actually talk about it, because I feel like this movie, for one, would be really easy to spoil. So here's my spoil-free review before we go into actually like talking about this movie. So here's my spoil-free review. It's a 6 out of 10. All right, now let's actually talk about the movie. So if you don't know what Poor Things is, it is a film about Bella Baxter, played by Emma Stone, who is a woman who jumps off a bridge, and Dr. Godwin Baxter finds her corpse. She is pregnant, and instead of saving just the baby that he probably could have done, he decides to put the baby's brain in the woman's body, and thus Bella Baxter is born. It's a dark comedy that leans into the absurdity and kind of surrealism to kind of tell not only like a Frankenstein story, but like a coming of age, maybe a coming of self movie. There's a lot here. There's a lot of themes here. There's themes of coming into like your own self. There's themes of definitely self-discovery. There are themes of men's control over women. It's kind of a feminist movie in a way, because there's themes of like infantilization of like the innocence of women's sexuality and kind of taking advantage of that. And then when the woman becomes kind of like self-aware or self-empowered of their own sexuality, then demonizing for it. I'm stealing that from my wife because she originally said it better than I did. So I kind of stole what she said about it. There's also messages or themes here of like, you know, life destroying innocence, and there's themes of classism. There's themes of like the facade of living wealthy, that whole classism arc that's I'll talk about later. There's definitely themes of like grooming and kind of manipulation. There's themes of like how women are treated at different ages or stages of their life. There's kind of a lot going on here thematically throughout the story that you can definitely kind of pick apart and talk about for a while. Personally, I think Emma Stone is probably a shoo-in for the Oscar. If not the Oscar win, 100% a nomination, which I'm recording this before the nominations are out, but the nominations will be out before this video goes up. So I'm assuming, I'm calling it here first, she's going to get a nomination at least. Bella is a character who has like basically an infant's brain in a full-grown woman's body. And so you see her rapidly grow in intelligence. You see her age mentally while staying physically kind of the same age, and Emma Stone being able to carry these different stages of Bella's life very organically and very naturally throughout the entire runtime is very impressive. Like, Emma Stone's performance is absurdly great in this film. I also think Willem Dafoe as Dr. Godwin Baxter is really good as well, and Mark Ruffalo as Duncan Wedderburn is also very, very good here as well. Honestly, probably my favorite Mark Ruffalo performance I've seen. I mean, I've not seen a ton of his solo or big performances, but really, really good for Mark Ruffalo. I think the film is just visually stunning. There's some absolutely amazing cinematography. There's some amazing set design, a great makeup, some really interesting visuals in terms of like, you know, Dr. Baxter's house has like these weird hybrid animals of like, I think it was like a French bulldog on a duck body at one point. Like, there's a lot of like weird stuff like that. The chapter markers are really like moving paintings that look great. There's a lot here on like a technical aspect that I really, really like, but it's kind of the narrative that kind of falls apart for me a little bit. So for me, I really enjoyed the first part of this movie where we are kind of watching Bella discover herself, kind of growing and figuring things out. And I kind of enjoyed it from like probably the same like aspect as the character Dr. Baxter, because like I'm watching basically a science experiment, and it's kind of leaning into the dark humor. It's kind of leaning into the absurdity, and not to say it doesn't really ever lean away from that absurdity, but I just like how it's done here. I like the decision to do a lot of her innocence phase in a way in black and white to kind of make everything just life in that age is black and white. It's, you know, it's either black or it's white. And then, you know, as she moves on and gets kind of courted or groomed, if you want to say that, by Duncan Wedderburn, Wedderburn, life becomes more colorful, becomes more animated as she's discovering more. She's discovering the vividness of life, the colors of life, and kind of the complexity of life as well. And it's a pretty interesting visual aesthetic, and I really like that aspect of it too. You kind of get to a point where there's 2 chapters, Alexandria and then Paris, and that's kind of where the film fell apart for me, and I never really got that much back into it from there on out. Basically, when Duncan Wedderburn shows up and kind of whisks Emma Stone or Bella Baxter away to go on this grand adventure, they end up taking this cruise where they meet 2 other characters, and one of them they basically call a cynic, and so I'm just going to call him Cynicism from here on out because I can't remember what his name was. So basically, she meets these characters, and because of meeting these characters, she starts to not only question more, but kind of dive more into philosophy. She starts reading more, and the Cynicism character decides to take her to this place where she can see the slums, the dead children in the streets, how the lowest, the most impoverished live, and it kind of busts that facade that she's been living, because she's basically lived a life of luxury between the doctor, who obviously had money, and to Duncan Wedderburn, who picked her up and obviously had a ton of money to really kind of go out on the town, if you will. And now she's seeing, the horrors of what poverty is like, and it breaks her. And I really kind of rolled my eyes at this scene when it popped up, because it's very heavy-handed and kind of hokey of how Yorgos goes about saying, telling this part. I also feel like this scene is here to just be a catalyst to pole vault us to the next scene, which is the Paris scene. It's just here to be used as a point to get to another point. Basically what happens is she sees this, she's distraught by it. It plays it up to be this really grandiose, profound in a way scene, and then it cuts right to her basically gathering up all of Duncan's money and giving it away to somebody she just randomly meets, because she's like, give these to the poors, to quote Tom Segura, give these to the poors, and she gives it to another person, and the person's like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. Obviously they're just gonna jack the money and run, but you really kind of ham fist us this scene of look at this poverty, and it's gonna change Bella, and then it just cuts into almost like a comedy moment, and it's just okay. And then we go to, because they don't have money, they get dumped off at Paris, and they're trying to figure out what they're gonna do about earning money. So she decides to start prostituting herself out to get money for them to survive off of. And this is kind of I feel the epitome, or the overarching conclusion of the story. I don't know if conclusion is the right word, but the epiphany part of the story, where the themes of owning yourself in a way is kind of brought to realization here, because she is taking control of herself, she's taking control of her own body, she's living free and discovering herself and empowering herself. And to me, it's just you get that within the first couple moments of this scene, and then it just drags on forever with these kind of montage of exploitative scenes that I personally don't feel added anything, and I felt this really made the runtime drag on. I feel this section of the film really could be trimmed down, because you have these, it's almost like a montage scene in a way, where you can have you have moments of, you see Bella gain her own confidence, you see her intelligence grow, you see her explore things, and she's questioning things, and she's discovering herself, and then you have these long drawn out sex scenes in between them that just, I don't know, it just it felt like it really broke up the pacing of the film for me. And I just, like I said, from that Alexandria to that Paris scene, I kind of lost interest into the story, and I did start to pick back up into it when her ex-husband shows up, Alfie, played by Christopher Abbott. When he shows up, I do feel the film kind of finds its footing again, and it does lead into a good climax. It ends off at a pretty solid place, in my opinion. There is that chunk where I just kind of lost interest. There are some moments of kind of wonky CG. I think for the most part, some of the wonky CG, the, maybe some of the water, or some of the sky replacement or something like that, works. And yeah, it doesn't look the best, but it kind of works within this own kind of cartoonish world that the film is living within. But there is it's in Alexandria, the scene in Alexandria that just looks so, I don't know, to me, super fake. Now, I do want to say I was really enjoying a lot of the narrative, but I wasn't head over heels with it. Like, I was enjoying what the film was presenting. I was enjoying some of the themes and ideas and kind of watching it progress, but I wasn't quite into it like I was The Lobster, or I wasn't as like emotionally swayed into it like I was The Favorite. So for me, I think this is a 6 out of 10. And you know, it's one of those ones where it's like I've went several days now since I saw it last weekend, and I'm recording this a couple days later, and I've had some time to think about it, and I talked to a friend about it, and it's one of those ones where it's like it's not really sticking with me very much. It's not sticking with me like some of other Yorgos's films have, where it's like, you know, the longer I go away from it, the less, not only am like I'm just not thinking about the movie after seeing it, but like the less like I feel like I have to say about the movie. There are elements here that I do like. I will watch this again because, like I said, maybe I wasn't in the right headspace, but I could definitely feel that runtime for sure. But yeah, if you want to support me and what I do, you can definitely subscribe, like, share, comment, whatever. You can also check out my Patreon. You can become a member. You can check out my gaming channel. There's a link to the Twitch channel as well. All that stuff's down below. But yeah, yep. I do want to, Autumn, if you'll come here, pull me a Red Vine and pull me a Twizzler. I'm gonna go blind taste test on these two. Don't tell me which is which. All right. I am ready. All right. I bet that one's Twizzler. Oh, I should do a palate cleanser first. Oh God, that's gotta be the Red Vine. Yeah. Oh my God. That is so bad. That is so bad. Oh my God. Red Vine, what are you doing? Who eats Red Vines? You're wrong. Don't watch my channel. Unsubscribe.